Guys, today we're going to be getting some of the most difficult and grindy trophies in Back for Blood. As part of those difficulty trophies, we're going to be covering the deck we use for 95% of the game, how to use that deck, farming the cards for the deck, how quick play might be able to help you get some of the difficulty trophies, and we'll cover a special build just for Act 4. In addition to those campaign difficulty trophies, we're also going to cover Trial of the Worm, and the trophies there that require us to get a score of 100,000 and a multiplier of 20 or more. And then finally, we'll cover how to farm the Hives for the Master Spelunker trophy, and how to farm the kills for the Good Riddence trophy, which requires 53,600 kills. If all of that sounds interesting to you, then stick around. Okay, first up, completing the campaign on Nightmare difficulty for Acts 1 through 4, and No Hope difficulty for Acts 5 and 6. Note, we are going to cover Act 4 separately at the end of this section. So here is the deck that I used for all of the acts apart from Act 4. Feel free to go ahead and screenshot this. This is a melee deck which focuses on generating stamina, self-healing, and some team healing, and damage output and protection. Alright, let's talk about how to best use this deck. You will want to use either Holly or Charisse for this. Obviously, if you only have the base game, then Holly's the choice for you, but she is a good choice in her own right anyway. If you have her available, I think Charisse, though, is the best choice for this melee deck. Not only because of the team trauma resistance and team bolstered health, but also because you're going to find armor pieces dropping continually throughout all of the campaign acts, and I found them to be really useful. Your best bet is to play this offline solo, because your bot teammates are super overpowered and are almost certainly going to be more effective than your buddies that you might team up with. But in addition to that, offline allows you to save scum on PS4 and PS5, and I assume on Xbox too. What that means is you can back up your campaign runs either to USB or to the cloud, so that if you do happen to fail a run and have 0 continues left, that would normally mean that run is completely dead and you have to start over, but now you can simply restore the backup you made. So let's take a quick look at how you use this deck in a real campaign run. We're going to do the first level in the game on No Hope difficulty. I am going to pick Charisse for this, and we're going to pick our melee deck. I always do check out the weapon attachments for the melee weapons. There's some good ones, especially if they involve extra healing or extra damage. And I normally do buy the stun gun just in case we get grabbed by a hag. That can be annoying. Okay, so our deck contains a card called Down in Front, which means we don't give or take any friendly fire so long as we're crouched. So we do generally want to stay crouched to avoid damaging our bot allies. And then we just want to take it slow, use the axe, but let our bot allies do all the damage at range.
Safest bet now is to try and keep off the streets.
Again, we're staying crouched, we're just taking it slow, we're in no hurry here. Now you will note that we get knocked back by the tall boy here. When you're knocked back, you come out of crouch, so you will want to make sure to get back into crouch, or you'll be doing what I'm doing and accidentally meleeing my teammates, which you don't want to do. So everyone's in pretty good shape health-wise at the moment. Do take out the sleepers with a gun if you see them ahead of time. Okay, we're about halfway through the level here. Again, we're just taking it slow. Keep swinging the weapon. And keep moving forward. So we did get a hag. Luckily, we didn't get grabbed. But as you can see, we do pretty good damage pretty quickly, enabling us just to hightail it towards the safe room. And there we have it, first level of the game done on the hardest difficulty, and pretty much everyone's got full health. Now obviously every other level in the game is going to be probably harder than that, but that run should show you the basics of how the deck works. Check the video description below to see if there's any other No Hope gameplay footage that I might have uploaded. Now it's one thing to say this is the deck to use, it's another thing to actually have the cards to put in that deck. So let's talk about how you can get those cards. 11 of the 15 cards come from standard supply lines that you just spend supply points on to buy. Another card is going to come from duffel bags, and I'll show you an exploit around how to increase your chances with those duffel bags. And 2 of the cards come from the collector supply line, which requires skull totems, and I'll show you a quick cheesy method which should enable you to get both of the cards you need from the collectors fairly quickly and only needing to spend 4 skull totems. So head on over to your supply lines, and we're going to use these 3 tracks to get 11 of the 15 cards. For the Paul's Alley track, you're going to purchase everything available 8 times, and this will cost you around about 3,100 points. For the Clinic track, you're going to purchase everything available 1 time, which will cost you around 290 points. And then for the Crow's Nest track, you're going to purchase everything available 7 times, which will cost you around 2,300 points. All of that means you'll be able to get 11 of the 15 cards by spending around about 6,000 supply points. Now obviously if you just play through the game on Recruit, then you'll end up with a whole bunch of supply points at the end of that, or you can spend a few hours, as I did, just farming the first level of the game, using the default starter deck the game gives you right at the start. Start a run on Veteran, select that starter deck, and just rip through the level. So we're about halfway through the level now. And we're done. In real time, that's about 2 to 3 minutes to do that run, and you get, give or take, about 100 supply points for doing it. This means you should be able to farm around about 2,000 supply points an hour. So that's 11 of the 15 cards. The Adrenaline Fueled card unlocks by getting 50 melee kills in 1 run. That one should be pretty straightforward to get. The Hazmat Specialist is a random reward from finding a duffel and bringing it to the safe room. So here's a duffel bag in a level that we're going to pick up. And then if we successfully bring that to a safe room, we will get a duffel bag reward, and hopefully it's the card we want. It probably won't be though. So we can increase our chances for getting the card we want out of a duffel by using an exploit called the Duffel Shuffle. So the way this works is you pick up the duffel bag as normal that you find in a level, and you take it to the supply room, but instead of simply closing the door and getting your reward, you're going to drop the duffel bag behind the door. Then we're going to go find a tool to put in our quick tool slot that was previously occupied by the duffel bag. I'm going to use this bear trap, that'll work just fine. Then we head back to the safe room. Now we're going to quickly swap the bear trap and the duffel bag in and out of our quick tool slot while the door close animation is happening. And even though I was super slow and did the worst possible version of the Duffel Shuffle, we still got 2 rewards even though we only delivered 1 duffel bag. Note that this trick works even better when exiting a level by entering a ridden hive. You're going to drop the duffel bag very close to the hive entrance, and then do your tool shuffle with the bag while the 5-second countdown for entering the hive is happening. In this particular case, I got 4 rewards for delivering 1 duffel bag. Okay, the last 2 cards we need, we get from the Collector's Supply track, which requires spending Skull Totems. You're going to need 4 Skull Totems, which you get from doing Ridden Hives, which randomly appear in campaign levels. Then you're going to come into the Collector's Supply track, and the first card it offers you is random, but the 2 cards we want will always be in that first slot, and they will cost 2 Skull Totems each. In this particular case, it's not the card we need, so the game wants us to wait 55 more minutes in order for those cards to refresh and for us to have another crack. But we can simply set the console's clock 1 hour and 1 minute ahead and force that refresh. Once we're back in the game, you can see it's expired and is now refreshing. And it's still not the card we need, so we're simply going to add another hour to the console clock. Still not the card we need, so we'll give it another crack. And there we go, one of the 2 cards we need. Fit as a fiddle. This is going to cost us 2 skull points, so spend them, get the card, then repeat for the other card you need. Okay, we're just about ready to go tackle all those difficulty trophies. We've now got all the cards in the deck, or most of them. We're going to do offline solo, we're going to take it slow, and we're going to let the bots do the work, especially at range. It is important to note though that even with this deck, the game does not become some god mode uber cheese junket. You still will have a pretty frustrating time, especially when you die as I did right at the end of levels, but stick with it, you'll get there. Okay, let's quickly cover how quick play may be able to help you out with some of the difficulty stuff as well. In the normal course of events, you're going to start an offline solo campaign run, and as you complete each chapter in that run, the game will record the difficulty you completed it at, and you'll progress the run. Online quick play enables you to join a chapter of somebody else's run. So here I'm setting it up to join a no hope run in Act 5 or 6. And if anybody is currently doing a no hope run in Act 5 or 6 online, then I'll join that run with them. So here you can see I've joined someone's Act 6 run in Chapter 2, and the human player that I joined is playing with 3 bots. Note the prompt I'm given is to take over one of those 3 bots, but I'm not going to, I'm simply going to spectate, because again, certainly in my case, and probably in yours, the bots are way better than I am. I'm going to let the bots do their thing, and if the human player completes this chapter, then I will get credit for completing the chapter also on no hope difficulty, even though I did nothing other than spectate. Now remember though, this was somebody else's run, so I don't get any progression on my campaign run, but the game does remember that I have already completed chapter 2 of Act 6 on no hope. So this can help you if, for example, you've done the first 3 chapters of Act 6 offline solo by yourself, but you're stuck on Chapter 4. You could do quick play and hope that you join someone else's Chapter 4 run of Act 6, and that they complete that run while you're spectating, so that you get credit for completing Chapter 4 on no hope, even though you did nothing other than spectate. And if you were to do the same thing with the final chapter, you would unlock the trophy/achievement for doing Act 6 on no hope, even though you only spectated the last 2 chapters. Note though, even though you can specify you want to do Act 6 quick play, you can't specify what chapter, and there may be nobody playing at the time you're trying to do it. Give it a crack though if you want, it might help you. Okay, let's talk about the build we're going to use for Act 4. Act 4 is all about weak spot damage at range. You're going to be shooting tentacles, tonsils, and body pimples. So here's the build that I used for Act 4. This build concentrates on weak spot damage, on accuracy to ensure we can get the damage, on raw damage output, and on reload speed and other general help like extra grenade pouches. You can use Walker if you like for this build, though I use Jim, primarily because of the team weak spot damage and because of the reload speed. Alright, we're finally ready to go do all of those difficulty trophies. You're going to do almost all of it offline solo with bots. Maybe you'll mix in a little bit of online quick play to help out with a few tough spots. You're going to do Acts 1, 2, and 3 with the melee deck. You're going to do Act 4 with the weak spot deck. And then we're going to go back to the melee deck for Acts 5 and 6 on no hope difficulty. And after many hours and many failed attempts, you will unlock the difficulty trophies for all of the acts from 1 through 6. Okay, let's talk about the 2 trophy/achievements for Trial of the Worm. One requires us we get a score of 100,000 or more in a single run, and the other requires we complete a run with a multiplier of 20 or more. So we are just going to use our standard melee deck for this, and you can use Holly or Charisse. And then for the corruption cards, just set them to what I have set on the screen here. So 0 for difficulty, 15 for Ridden, 12 for Horde, and 10 for Player. You should pick a map you're relatively familiar with. In my case, I'm picking a Ridden Hive, 300 below. And then we're just going to treat this like any old campaign run, except it'll be easier than Nightmare or No Hope difficulty. Since score is the thing we really want to aim for, and because this is a Ridden Hive, it's telling me I'm going to get a 31,000 point bonus if I find all 3 skull totems. Full disclosure, I don't find all 3 skull totems in this run, but I still meet the score requirement. And the other thing we want to be on the lookout for is the mementos. Finding them gives a big score boost at the end. So look out for those, go hunting for those, find as many as you can. I find 3 in this run. And the final thing you want to make sure of is that all of 4 of your cleaners are alive at the end. They can go down during the run, that's no problem. Just make sure they get revived, or if it's you that's gone down, you get revived. And make sure everybody's alive at the end. As you can see, I went down here and grabbed the 3rd memento on this run as I was revived. And that's it, run done. Let's see how that score broke down. So I got 118,000, we only needed 100,000. We got the bulk of the points just for completing the map, and we got 21,000 for having everybody alive, and 22,000 for finding those 3 mementos. And if I'd have found one more skull totem, we would have had 31,000 more points. So give those settings a crack that we showed at the start, you should have no problem getting this one done. Okay, let's talk about Master Spelunker. For this one, you've got to complete all 7 of the Ridden hives, which can randomly appear in any campaign level map. Do note though that the 7th one, the nursery, only appears inside another Ridden hive, and so can't be directly found in a campaign map. By the time you finish all the difficulty trophies, all the chapters, and all the acts, you'll probably have most of these hives completed, but if you haven't, then you'll want to farm the first level in the game. It's by far the shortest, quickest, and easiest one to farm, and all of the hives can randomly appear in this level. So hives can spawn behind that container, and we're just quickly going to go and have a look at one. They can also spawn here, quite near the safe room. And they can spawn here under that tree. So again, just farm this level if you're missing some hives. Once you've found all the hives, you will have unlocked the Master Spelunker trophy / achievement. And finally, let's talk about the Good Riddance trophy. This requires you get 53,600 kills across your career, and by the time you finished all the difficulty trophies, you might have about half of them done. I had less than half done, which means you've got a little bit of grinding left to do. Luckily, there is a really great AFK method to get this done. I'm not going to show all of the setup here because there's a really great video out there already that goes into that by that drunk guy. There's a link to his video in the description below, and there'll be a pop-up appearing on screen here any second. I'm just going to give you the very high-level overview of it here. Any deck will work for this, though it will be slightly faster if you modify the melee deck that we've been using. Confident Killer and Glass Cannon are both aimed at raising our base damage, which improves the effectiveness of the razor wire, and utility belt is optional. It just gives us more slots to put razor wire in, which speeds up the setup. So you're going to go do Act 1, the crossing. You're going to use Tala, select the deck we made. You're going to lay down a whole bunch of razor wire, then intentionally trigger the infinite horde and watch the kills pile up. As I mentioned earlier, go check out that drunk guy's video for the details on how to set this up. You should be able to farm 4,000 to 5,000 kills an hour with this method, and when you're done with your run, you're simply going to run off and jump off the edge of the map. Then you're going to take over one of the bots and jump them off the edge of the map, and repeat until all of the bots have jumped off the map and you've failed the run. And then after a good few hours of AFK farming, you will have gotten your 53,000 kills and unlocked the Good Riddance trophy. And that's it, guys. That's how you can unlock some of the most difficult and grindy trophies in Back 4 Blood. Hope that helps you out, and I'll catch you in the next one.